At every stage of a teacher's career, it's vital to enhance their skills. So today on Resource Review, we're featuring 3 resources that might help primary teachers continuing professional development. They are a book that offers an approach to teaching and learning, a comprehensive website of research materials, and a thought-provoking book on the linguistic impact of the internet. Recommending today's resources is Professor David Wray, who is Director of Teacher Education at the University of Warwick. On the panel today we have Peter Taylor, Head Teacher of Worth Primary School in Cheshire and author of a book about coaching, and Alan Mills from the Specialist Schools and Academies Trust. And Matthew Tosh, our resource investigator, has been out and about seeing what teachers make of our resources. Now, David, you're a Professor of Literacy Education, so it's understandable that your choices of resources today have a very strong literacy slant. But we're talking about primary CPD today. Can all primary teachers make use of these resources?
Oh, certainly. I was also a former primary teacher. And I know it from teaching in a primary school how important literacy is. I mean, you can't imagine anything happening in terms of learning if literacy isn't there.
Well, your first choice of resource for us today is a book. It's called Thinking Together. Tell us about this resource and why you like it.
Firstly, it gives classroom resources. It gives things that teachers can do, but it's also extremely well founded in research and development.
But in what way is that CPD and not a teaching resource?
Because of the foundation, because of the research background, I don't think that these activities could be done really profitably in a school unless the teachers who are using them understood why. Okay. And that's the where it's the CPD, because it develops their understanding of their professionalism.
OK, well, we sent Matthew Tosh over to Hungerford Primary School in Islington, North London, to see what Becky Dungworth thinks of Thinking Together.
Thinking Together sets out to equip teachers with ideas to help children explain their thinking, develop their reasoning skills and share information with each other. It contains a set of structured lesson plans, like this one here on fair testing, which gives children practicing making joint decisions and presenting ideas as a group. And the emphasis is on giving teachers the tools to help pupils develop their language skills. Now here at Hungerford Primary School, Year 6 teacher Becky Dungworth has chosen an activity on persuasion. So let's see how this contributes to her professional development.
Piece of drama, showing us your persuasion, thinking really carefully about the language that you're going to use.
Please, Dad, I want to go to college. Please.
Can you talk me through how you've used the resource in today's lesson?
Yeah, we started off with a class discussion around persuasion. The second part of the lesson was role play. After that, we shared our ideas and the work that they'd come up with. Then the children had to improve a letter by using all the persuasion tools that they'd learnt throughout the lesson.
What do you like about this as a CPD resource?
It's got some good ideas for how to mix around your groups, and which allows children from different ability ranges to work together. It's quick and easy, so it's good for time management. Also, there's lots of different strategies that you can use in the classroom that you wouldn't necessarily think of all the time. And it's very good for setting up at the beginning of the year, speaking and listening groups and talk partners.
And what has it contributed to you personally?
I've used it as a reminder for how to use drama and role play.
So to summarise, what would you say about this as a CPD resource?
I think it will be a really good resource for teachers that are training, either doing a BEd or a PGCE or NQTs when they haven't got as much experience.
Thank you very much. So perhaps more useful for NQTs. Well, let's see what our panel makes of it. We'll go back to the studio.
Well, Peter, what do you make of this resource?
I like this resource. I enjoyed reading this resource and I can see how it would be useful in the classroom. The first thing I thought was this would be a particularly good resource for my staff. Then I had to think about how we might use it in terms of CPD. Actually having the resource and reading the resource, of course, is CPD. CPD isn't always organising a training session or going off-site for training. However, when I actually thought about how we might use this, some of the sections could actually be modelled in a staff meeting or in a training session. For instance, a section 3, deciding on ground rules. some of the things that are in there are useful for adults as well as children. Even though this is based on research, it's very much a practitioner book, and it's a book that younger teachers or less experienced teachers would benefit from using.
Alan, what did you make of Thinking Together?
I think the actual ideas, and as you said, sort of the concepts there, excellent in terms of CPD.
Absolutely.
In terms of the actual products, dreadful. I just think the whole way it's used, I mean, the pictures are wasted, they're set out such a lot of white space that it just worries me when if somebody's spending money on something like this, that it's not as good as it can be. Ideas, the notion of using it in CPD, as we both said, as we've all said, excellent, but just the actual product itself, there's so much better going on.
I think publishers have always got that problem, haven't they, of making things affordable and making them attractive. And what you're getting here is the product of 20 years of really solid, sound research that could not be bettered.
Okay, well, thank you all for that. It's time now to move on to David's second choice of resource for us today, and it is the National Literacy Trust's website. Now, David, tell us what's on this website, and again, how do you see it being useful for primary CPD?
Well, the answer to the first question is it's probably easier to tell you what's not on it, because this is a totally comprehensive website and it's absolutely amazing. I defy anybody to find a question that they have about literacy and the research into literacy, how literacy is taught, which this won't have some kind of answer about. Teachers tend to fight shy of research, but there's no reason for that, and research is, if it's written in an approachable, accessible ways, is a vital component of their professional element of what they do. I think schools are going to come to this with problems. They're going to come to it with issues that they've developed as a school staff, or maybe even individuals or small groups. And they're going to say, well, we've got this issue, we've got this problem, how can this site help us go forward?
Okay, well now let's go back to Hungerford Primary School, and Matthew's visiting Key Stage 2 teacher Andrea Bycroft, who's having a look at the website.
The National Literacy Trust website is aimed at improving the nation's literacy skills. It offers teachers a comprehensive list of research topics and educational policy matters, all of which can contribute to one's professional development. Now, Andrea Bycroft has chosen an exercise on creative writing, so let's see how she gets on with her Year 6 class and what she gets from it in terms of professional development.
So he's also describing what he can hear, and all of this is helping you to imagine that you are actually there.
Andrea, can I ask you, what are your personal professional development aims at the moment?
I'm interested in teaching literacy and writing especially, so the website I used today was very beneficial.
How has this website helped you in terms of your professional development?
As a new teacher, it's kind of given me demonstrations and models on how to get the most out of my pupils. The website gave me a different kind of strategy or method for how to teach creating a setting.
So how have you put that into practice in today's lesson?
Well, most of the strategy for my lesson was I got directly from the website, where they provided me with a resource to use that would be analysed, which was the piece of writing Lost in the Woods. And there was also kind of teacher prompts which I could use. And we looked at that piece of writing, and from there the children developed their own creative story.
How easy was it to find CPD resources on the website?
It's quite easy to navigate your way through. In terms of CPD, it is helpful because there's just the information and the research that's available. They have information on behaviour, they have information on reading, dealing with parents, specific syndromes, which is helpful for your learning.
So as a CPD resource, what is your overall impression?
Well, for that particular lesson, I could use it as a tool for my own CPD. But generally, because the website is full of research and information, I think it would be more beneficial for a literacy coordinator to use.
Thank you very much, Andrea. So it might be more useful for a literacy coordinator. And on that note, we'll go back to the studio.
Well, Peter, what do you make of this resource?
I really liked it. It was very, very useful. Second of all, it actually occurred to me that this might be something I could advertise to some of the parents in school as well. I know that's not teachers' CPD, but engaging parents in the development of skills in this area. There are sections for assisting children with language development as toddlers and young children, and it's a very, very useful website.
Alan?
I agree, it's a vast resource and it's a fantastic resource. But I actually went to several literacy coordinators and people who write on literacy, and they didn't know it, which surprised me because every single thing, the only one criticism they made was there's some lack of some of the latest stuff. They said, you know, is the report that came out 2 weeks ago on there? And they said, no, it's not. It should be. But it is fantastic. Anything you want to find out is there. I mean, it's one of those sort of websites you just can't believe everything is sitting there. You haven't got to do any other work. Right web address, and you're into everything.
Okay, now let's move on to David's third choice of resource. It's another book called Language and the Internet. So, David, what about this resource then?
This, I have to admit, is my favourite of the three, for two reasons, really. And I'll deal with the first reason, is David Crystal. David Crystal is an absolute polymath. This is a man who knows every single thing there is to know about language. And although he's a very prominent academic, he writes superbly. But the second reason I like it because the world has changed. You know, literacy and language don't just exist in their printed forms anymore. And schools need to change as well. The internet, all these new technologies of communication, and I'm including mobile phone texting as well, have all made a difference to how we approach language. And unless we start really seriously tackling that in schools, we are at risk of schools becoming more and more divorced from the real world of children out there on the streets. As a head teacher in a primary school, I would want all my staff to read it. And I think I may well say, well, we have a staff development session coming up perhaps. Why don't we all agree to read one chapter beforehand? And then when we come, we'll just talk about it and say, what do we make of it? Does it have any implications for how we might want to work in the future?
Peter, what do you think?
It's a book for academics, I think. I could see myself discussing this book with the ICT subject leader at my school who has a degree in this. I think some of my staff initially, especially the staff who are very much practitioner-based, I'm not sure they'd find it accessible. However, there's a caveat to that. When I came back to the book again, I enjoyed it just as much from a linguistics point of view as I did from an internet computer language point of view.
Right, okay. Well, Alan, I know you've read this book, so what did you think of it?
Cover to cover. And it wasn't exactly the non-put-downable read. However, having said that, I think it misses the point, really. A lot of it is out of date as we speak, as is the nature of any print about the internet. The sort of stuff in there, I mean, the stuff that I found most useful was some of the charts, which is not about language. It was just a series of statistics about the way in which the internet is being used in the various different situations. Found that fascinating. I've already incorporated one of it into a presentation I do. But I think it's missing the point completely. We've now got teachers who are much younger than us, not including you, Hermione, much younger than us, who are actual digital natives, and this is actually not necessary anymore.
Well, thank you all very much. That's all we've got time for today. But just to recap, the three resources that we've looked at were Thinking Together, published by Imaginative Minds Limited, the National Literacy Trust website, and Language and the Internet, published by Cambridge University Press. For more information about the resources featured today, go to our website. It's teachers.tv/resource review, or if you want to, email us, resourcereview@teachers.tv. So a very big thank you to our panel, to David, to Peter and to Alan. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time on Resource Review. Bye-bye.